trading cards.
Oh, that's right.
No. No. I don't. Yeah, it might have been a couple. Might have been one of them. Might have been the one that I gave you.
Oh. You must have gone live, Phil. Thanks. I forgot.
I did. Yes, I did. So.
Yes, great.
yeah.
Good to see you again. And Serena, great to meet you virtually.
Yeah, you as well.
So we are live, or at least now streaming. So welcome to Stormfront Freaks Raw. This is actually, we're going to be recording a special bonus episode tonight. So if you're one of our Patreon members joining us live, I know Steve Collier is here. So Steve, glad you could make it, at least for a little while. We've got one of our VIPs, Angela, is actually at home tonight. So I'm so happy for her that she can be home.
I just thought she had a nicer, newer truck.
Yeah. Big.
It's been 57 days. 57 days since I've been home.
Wow.
Wow
is right. Like, why do you even pay rent?
Jeremy, can we make sure your mic's working, or you tap that or something?
I crashed
Testing.
Yeah, I've got it.
Got it.
Okay.
Good.
It might be working. I hear it.
I hear it fine.
Okay. No, I thought it didn't sound quite like it would. I thought, but it's okay. Now, when you lean into it, it's better.
Yeah, he was tapping it.
You can
like.
give it a little.
Turn it up a little bit. Gain a little bit here.
Little gain. Yeah.
Little gain.
Okay. Yep.
One more. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, that works. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so Stormfront Freaks Raw. So this is the recording of this bonus episode we're going to do tonight. So we'll get started here shortly. But again, welcome to our Patreon members that get to join us live. We have a lot of fun doing this live with them. And then if you happen to be watching, you can always join our team as well. Go to patreon.com/StormfrontFreaks. And join us. Have a good time. So I want everybody to know, for all of you. Jeremy reached out a couple months ago and said he was going to be putting together this top list. And I thought, well, what a cool, like, New Year's Eve kind of countdown kind of fun thing this would be. So Jeremy was not only kind enough to do this whole list, but was kind enough to find time this week to get together and do this. So as I told you guys, this is going to be a little different. We're not going to follow our normal episode stuff that we normally do. It's going to be a little more, even more casual than normal. But so how we'll set this up is we're actually we will take a break. We will have a short break. We'll just do one break. But so Jeremy is going to go through. I'll do a normal introduction. I'm not going to do a teaser, but kind of do a normal introduction. We're not going to do what are you drinking, but I'm going to talk to each of our co-hosts a little bit, and then we'll get Jeremy. Then we'll get to you, and we're going to do top 10 through 4. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And basically, Jeremy, he's got a PowerPoint. We're just going to kind of let him share. And everybody's welcome to comment on it or joke about whatever, or if you have memories of it, great. As Jeremy's going through it, but after he's done with 4, I'm going to go to break with a little plug, and then after the break, we'll come back with the top 3, and these are episodes, and then we're going to do his top 5. What do you call them? Moments. Top 5 moments. And really, they're kind of the funniest moments. They're really funny. You guys will probably know what they are, but
it's called when NJ had to do edits.
Yes.
Are they the dirtiest ones?
Oh, God.
Sort of.
You could say that.
More edits coming. That's good.
So it's just going to be that, and then we're just going to do a little close, and so it's really just kind of a little bonus fun time for us. So I want everybody to just have fun on this one, not like
Merry
you
Christmas,
don't normally
everyone, by the
do
way.
that.
And Happy New Year. And
and MJ, we can keep Angela here too, and if any of the other VIPs show up, keep them on. We don't need to send them back. So, all right. So anybody have any questions? You guys ready for this? I'm not doing any sound effects or anything like that either. Okay.
we
but
gotta
Just
say
gonna
hi
be
to
honest,
Cowboy
Phil, this is
Steve.
all alcohol, so this might go off the rails real quick.
is it really alcohol?
Mostly.
Is it?
Yes.
Most
Mostly.
and ice
I'm not
cream.
doing what you're
That's
drinking,
good.
but here
It's
I'm
like a
actually drinking a
mudslide
Thunder
with
Punch.
stuff in
Oh
it.
my.
Oh, there you
You're
go.
gonna
Thunder
get
Punch.
drunk and fat.
That's a
boy.
good one, Jeremy. Where's
Thunder
that
I
Punch.
know,
from?
Dina.
Thunder
This
Punch.
is actually, if you guys come out chasing next year, the Thunderhead Brewing Company in Kearney, Nebraska.
Ah.
Great stuff. Also, if you're a fan of Stone Oven Pizza, great pizza as well.
Ooh.
I will,
Thunder Punch
I will invoice
cherry.
them. I will
Is that a
invoice them for
sour?
that plug.
Jeremy, is that a sour?
No, this is the best way to describe it. Is it's essentially like a 7-Up Sierra Mist with a cherry flavor to it.
There you go.
It's got, what is it? 5.6% alcohol. So
Okay.
yeah, a couple of
Not
these by
bad.
the end of the night.
It's like a hard Mountain Dew. That's what
Yeah,
I'm doing.
right.
So,
I definitely want to try one of those.
Yeah.
all right, gang, here we go.
Also comes in lime.
We are coming in 3, 2. Hey, welcome to the most entertaining weather podcast. This is a bonus episode of the award-winning Stormfront Freaks podcast. This is brought to you by Windstorm Products. You can never start the hurricane season preparations too soon. So don't wait until you're competing with everyone else who's trying to get all their flood and shutter hardware. Our friends at windstormproducts.com, they've got the world's largest online selection. So prepare your home ahead of next season's rush and shop windstormproducts.com for your hurricane hardware tools. So as I mentioned, we got a special bonus edition show tonight. It's going to be a little outside of our normal format, but the person joining us tonight, Jeremy Bauer, he reached out to me a few months ago. Now, Jeremy, I know, is an atmospheric science grad from Ohio State. He's a storm chaser and photographer. We had him on back on our bonus episode B2, like back in 2016, like the first year we started all this. And it was a photography episode that he was a part of because I had actually seen Jeremy at an Ohio State Severe Storm Symposium talking about photography and really good stuff. And he's done great stuff. We had the pleasure of meeting him in person this past May when we were out storm chasing as a team, and we saw him in Nebraska. But Jeremy reached out a couple months ago and said he was going to be going through our library of Stormfront Freaks raw videos, which
There's a
if
lot.
you're-
a lot of footage.
A ton, right? But which is even more because the raws we don't edit. That's the unedited video. So it's usually can be an hour plus on top of what our normal edited audio podcast might be. But we call it raw because it's the recording and you get everything, and it's sometimes for adults only, all that good stuff. But Jeremy was going to go through that whole library.
Takes courage.
And
Well, I will say one thing real quick,
Yeah,
Phil.
say it.
I
Say it.
did this last year for Weather Brains.
yes.
All of their online stuff on YouTube, and that was actually 466 episodes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So this was actually
gosh.
a walk in the park.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
called
well, hey,
carpal
that's-
tunnel right there. I mean,
we
that's
get
my
that a
wrist
lot,
would
Jeremy.
be-
We're a walk in the park compared to a lot of stuff. But anyway, so I thought what a great, cool thing to do is to have Jeremy come on in this bonus episode to end the year, to end 2022, and have him do a countdown. It's like a perfect time to do a countdown. So we're going to have the joy of having Jeremy here and to kind of go through this. He's going to show us some slides as he walks through the top 10. And then as a bonus to our bonus episode, he's actually going to cover his top 5 best moments of the raw videos as well. So that ought to be good.
Ooh, nice.
I do want to say thank you to our Patreon teammates that help support the show. I know Steve Collier is actually watching live right now. We haven't seen Steve for a little while, so it's cool to see Steve here for a little bit. And then one of our VIPs, Angela, is actually here in the studio tonight as well, and she's at home, which is so cool with the
Woo,
holidays
Angela.
that she's doing that. But tell you what, you guys can join our Patreon team as well. We've got multiple level of perks, like exclusive links to watch these raw episodes. You can find that Patreon link at stormfrontfreaks.com. So let's we're going to introduce the co-hosts that are here tonight. Normally in a typical episode, we're going to find out what they're drinking, and I know everyone's drinking tonight as well, which is cool. because this is going to be a fun episode. But I'm going to go through and cover. I'm going to start MJ with you. So Mark MJ Johnson. So he's one of the co-creators of this whole thing. So he's been on since episode 1 back in 2016.
Yikes.
And so some of the early episodes we did on a previous video platform. And so those aren't even on YouTube. And
Right.
maybe MJ, you and I can work on something for our Patreon members. We'll post those someday. I don't know.
Yeah.
Phil,
That might be fun.
Phil,
Yeah.
when you guys started this, did both of you have a full head of hair?
Yes,
Whoa.
I
Oh
did.
my gosh.
I still
That's
do. I
wild.
just shave it off.
I mean, you guys
Uh-huh.
don't.
Still
I've
do
got
that.
a
for sure
beautiful
you guys
head of
have-
hair.
right.
I just shave it off. All right. And then next up, Brady Harris. So Brady, you've also been on since episode 1. You took a little hiatus for a little while.
hiatus there for a little
But
bit.
but yeah, you've been on since episode 1 in 2016.
Oh yeah. Oh, I loved
So-
every second of it.
And your video keeps getting better every episode, which is
I
good.
know. I don't know what's happening. I really don't. For those that can't see, my video looks like 1970s VCR that's been damaged heavily.
it
It
re-
does.
my-
That is what it looks like.
You guys remember what's Mike Myers and Dana Carvey? What's their
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World?
World.
That's what it
just got
reminds
this
me
new
of.
laptop, Sue, so it's fantastic.
All
Guess I'll
right,
go back
so
and
then
get going.
Dina Knightley. So Dina, you've been with us since 2016. Do you remember what episode you started on?
3.
No,
Was it
that's the
3?
episode you were a guest on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember what episode you started as
Oh.
a co-host?
No.
7.
I know.
Yep.
7. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Episode
I
7.
knew it was a few had gone by, but I remember being on the third one.
Yeah, so I remember you were a guest with us with Paxton Calvanese, who does the Drive Weather app and the Atmosphere Weather app as well. So we still have got a great relationship with Paxton as well. So that's cool. All right, then I'm going to Greg Johnson. Started with us as a co-host. He was a guest for a couple times, but he started as a co-host in 2019. Do
That's
you remember?
crazy.
I know. Can you
And
believe
it's
that?
2030
years.
2023 coming up.
Do you
Wow.
remember
No,
what
it's
episode
not.
you debuted on?
76,
No, 91.
91.
91.
Episode
Wow.
91. And we're at about 170. What are we at now? 175-ish.
Ooh.
It's up there.
Going
Somewhere
on
around there.
174 plus bonuses.
There you go. And then Serena Arnold started in 2021,
I'm the baby.
February of 2021. So we're going almost 2 years,
Oh.
Serena.
Yeah.
That's
Do you remember
crazy
what episode
too.
you started on?
It was like right around 120, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
124.
Wow.
So,
Oh,
so
okay.
what's cool is most of our non-original team, we're all guests with us at one point, and that's what's cool is I get a chance, whether it's Serena or Dina or Greg, you get a feel for them and how do they work with this kind of bizarre, wacky show that we do in weather. And you get a feel, and you're like, you know what, they'd be a good fit. And so they were all kind enough to join us. And the team and the lineup that we have right now, we have had longer than any lineup ever in the show. So
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
so that's pretty cool.
Especially when you play the Hurricane or Supermodel game. That's when you really find out about this. There you go.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let's get started with our top 10. Jeremy, I am going to kind of turn it over to you. I know you've got a little PowerPoint for our viewers to follow as well, but go ahead and go through these shows. Tell me why they were in your. We'll start with number 10, why they were there, and we'll go from there.
Well, sure, absolutely. And before we actually officially get started, I'm going to do something that probably has never been done in the history of this show. I am going to raise a glass to all of you individuals, Phil and the gang. Thank you so much for everything that you do on, bi-weekly basis. Tremendous work. Appreciate everything that you do. So here's to you and to a wonderful 2023.
Very good.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Jeremy.
Now, real quick,
Woohoo!
Phil, while I do some rearranging of some windows here so I could run this PowerPoint, I know we met back in 2016 at the Ohio State Severe Weather Symposium. You had this idea about this podcast. Real quick, run me through the inception of this podcast, how it came about, why it came about, and so forth, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, it's and honestly, I don't know if we've gone through this a ton in our show. I've maybe talked about this on other podcasts, but the idea was I was somewhat familiar with podcasts at the time and had been started listening to them and thought it was a really neat medium. And it was also the same time that I really started getting more involved in severe weather and trying to immerse myself in that, learn more about it, get more involved. And I just thought, that would be a really neat thing to start some kind of a stormy. See, I'm into the sexy, stormy stuff. We've got a lot of meteorologists here, that forecast the nice sunny days and all that crap too. And that's no interest to me whatsoever. I want the sexy storms.
So you don't want the climatology.
No. No,
F5s and hurricanes, baby, right?
That's right. And so that was the idea, was just start something along those lines where a bunch of nerds could just get together and have cool guests on the show and talk about cool stormy stuff. And had the initial idea I had reached out to my brother, Mark, MJ, and thought this would be cool if we could do something together. Start something together and get going. And I knew it would be great because he has a lot of good technical skills as well. And thought, hey, what a cool, if we could do this. And I asked him and I kind of pitched it to him and he was all for it. And that was it from there. I'm like, all right, we're doing this. Had no idea where it would go, how long it would last, any of that. Just thought it would be a fun, cool thing to do. And it still is. And that's what's great about it.
Did you honestly think that you'd be 170 plus episodes deep?
Nope. Now I've always gone into this, as I think all of my friends and co-hosts here know, I've always gone into it with the idea that let's make this as good as we can and we'll just keep doing it as long as everyone's having fun. So I never thought, I bet this will only last, 50 episodes or 20 episodes, or when you're bi-weekly, you don't total them up. You don't total the episodes up as much. But I never thought I bet it's only going to do this. I just kept going, right? I didn't go, hey, let's see if we can get to this number. Let's see if we can get to that number. But I am super surprised that we've made it this far. Yes.
Well, tremendous work as, everything that you've done over the last several years. And I wish you all continued success with this podcast. So with that being said, I will go ahead and begin this top 10 list. Now, as Phil mentioned, so what was some of the things that I used as far as the process, the criteria, if you will? So essentially from between August and just about a week ago, August to December of 2022, I went through all of the raw episodes that are available on YouTube. So that's episodes starting at 17 and all the way up to, at that point in time, 170. Now, my ultimate goal on this was to essentially select what I felt were the very best episodes and try to keep it around, as I did for Weather Brains, right around about 25% or so of the total amount of episodes. And then what I did was I compiled that list, put it on YouTube. So it actually, if you search YouTube and you just search the Best of Stormfront Freaks podcast, you will see my list. Right now, it contains about 45 episodes at that point. The criteria was pretty simple. One was intrigue. Is there a certain tone to it? Was there a certain thing that made it very easy to watch multiple times or listen to? Is there a key issue that was addressed in the Weather Enterprise? So was there communications, warning, social science, a major event, something like that gives it just that little something extra? The other thing, educational value, as much as you don't want to say it, Phil, there is education in this particular podcast.
Hey, that's always been our number 2 goal. That's always been number 2. Number 1's entertainment. Number 2's been education.
You can't be one, at least you can be 2. So, but some type of educational.
That's what I tell my wife every time.
So especially important for current and potential future meteorologists who might listen to this podcast, whether it be now or in the future. Give them a little bit of background into certain things that were kind of major topics going on in that particular time frame. So again, these top 10 episodes are the ones that I feel, in my opinion, because my opinion counts, at least that's what my wife tells me, that this best represents this show. And if there's one thing that I always love, whether it be photography, storm chasing, meteorology, I always love a good challenge. So this was a pretty good challenge, going through all of these episodes and putting them together. This was actually quite fun, amazingly enough. But so where do we start? So with the top 10 episodes of Stormfront Freaks Raw, we're actually going to go back to a pretty early episode. So at number 10 on the list is episode number 21 with Dr. Laura Myers. So this particular episode, recorded on February 23rd of 2017, went into a little bit about false alarms and fake news, misinformation, everyone's favorite topic nowadays, but also centering around how do we know who are the trusted sources out there. So one thing I would like to do right now, if you have any recollection about this particular episode you want to share, but the other thing I pose is this particular question. As we go into 2023 and beyond, how do we know who is going to be a trusted source of weather information?
I do remember her being on. I want to say we talked a lot about like people who don't pay attention to warnings, and how do we in the weather industry really get our point across without trying to overhype. I do remember her, but that's kind of what I remember. What do you guys think?
she was, the biggest thing I recall was, her expertise was in communication.
Right.
And very similar to Gina Yasko, who we had on as well. Their specialty was in how do you communicate, for example, the warning system and the watch system and things like that, which, again, early on in our infancy of this show, a lot of that stuff to me was also very intriguing with, and still really is. I think that's really an area that there's so much more research that can be done in the communication of weather and alerts and storms and things like that.
Well, I think it's not getting any better, Jeremy.
No.
If anything, I think the entire marketplace is so super saturated with content, and there was a time where you would just go to the National Weather Service and that was your trusted source, and now there's how many different weather outlets that are putting that information out there. I don't know if it's going to get better at all.
And I was going to
Greg,
actually just real quick, sorry,
No, you're good.
I'm not sure if misinformation we know is a problem. Is there also potentially, and I don't hear this talked about a lot, is maybe too much information for some folks? Maybe is it, so much white noise that they can't figure out like what is right and what is not so accurate, if you will.
People were looting in Buffalo last week during the blizzard of the century. I think some people just don't care about the weather, and you can't reach you just can't reach everybody. Some people are going to care, some people aren't going to care.
Not only that, Greg, but I would guarantee you more people get their weather information from TikTok than the local news nowadays, and or the National Weather Service.
Well, Brady,
So
your experience during the hurricane is classic example. Some people stayed in their homes when Ian made landfall. I mean,
yeah,
duh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
it's crazy.
yeah.
I know. I agree
still
with you,
think
Greg.
I still think it's part of like people think it's just not going to happen to them.
Right.
It's just not going to happen to me. I mean, I've met tons of people who've gone through hurricanes, and I remember Katrina the most. And I asked a couple, it was my friend's parents. We were getting like money together and clothes for them because they lost everything. And we asked them, like, why didn't you go? And they said, every time we've been fine.
Yeah,
Right.
And I think Dina, it stems from just a mistrust. I think we talked about it a little bit during this episode, right? It was like it's just a mistrust in meteorologists. One, because it's the funny thing to say, and pretty much people love to rag on meteorologists, but at some to every joke there's some truth, and I think the majority of the public thinks we don't know what we're talking about because. There are some of us don't, and usually the folks that don't may have the loudest voices, or reach the most people, or that's what people remember, and that's a shame, right? Is is it makes communicating with folks about the dangers as well as, you know, the current predicament that they're in, whether it be tropical or whether it be winter. And, you know, we saw in you know, Buffalo, right? I mean, a ton of people perished, right? And that was a completely predictable event, and still people are passing away. And it's just, you know, it just comes down to the communication.
So, Jeremy, quick question. What was it about this show in particular? Like, was there a moment that made you go, yeah, this one stands out?
That's a great question. Honestly, you know, just a real brief about my background. I actually had, when I was in graduate school at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, I had an internship with the Lincoln Lancaster County Emergency Management Agency. So I had a little bit of background in emergency management. So I think that's why having Dr. Myers on the show and having her go through some of these issues, I was kind of experiencing in a way some of those issues back then. Just the biggest thing that I ran into out here was the infamous Lincoln Bowl, where Lincoln is protected because it sits in a bowl. That means a tornado will never ever hit Lincoln. And I have given so many presentations till I'm blue in the face trying to my heart's desires debunk that theory, and there are some people who absolutely refuse to believe the contrary. They believe that Lincoln is protected by, you know, by whatever you want to say, because it sits in a bowl. And I say the perfect example to use is the Topeka, Kansas F5 tornado from June 8th of 1966. The topography of Topeka and Lincoln are really no different. That tornado went right over Burnett's Mound, right through Topeka. And I use that example all the time.
So how many times have you guys heard the story? Somebody will say, "Oh, there's a river, and the storms always split at the river, you know, and that's why it'll never hit us. We don't have to worry about it because it splits, right? Those storms, they split at that river." That everyone knows this.
Everybody.
I've heard that way too many. I probably far to remember to count at this point. To be honest, I mean, everyone's heard the same ones: mountains, river valleys,
right.
You know, everything. It's just like we're protected because of this and that. And it's just like, no, you just kind of got lucky up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's even in Norman, Oklahoma. I mean, home of one of, you know, a very popular meteorology school. A lot of people, you know, they're right next to Moore, which has seen its fair share. And everyone talks about the Norman bubble and the river that's right there and how Norman is protected. And it's just, you know, it's a matter of time.
It's like everything, though. Once somebody gets something in their head, they're never going to let it go.
Yeah.
Yep,
Not until an EF5 hits Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think every single city in America probably has some type of fable or wise tale or something like that. It says, well, we're protected from this because of that, you know, type of deal. And it's just, I don't know if there's any way of getting around it, because when some people make up their mind, they've made up their mind. Yeah. So continuing on. So episode number 9 on the list, excuse me, is probably one of the more popular ones. I'm just going to refer to him as Mr. White Balance. That is Daniel Shaw, episode 1.
Yes,
recorded on September 6th of 2018. I think if there could ever be a goodwill ambassador from Australia to the United States in terms of storm chasing, I think Daniel would be the odds-on favorite to assume that role. So right off the bat, I say this episode resonated with me, basically, in a nutshell. May 31st, 2013, El Reno, Oklahoma. I, like so many other chasers, was there. Basically, his comment, "You're speaking to a ghost." If you have not heard his story about that particular day, you do need to go back and listen to this episode, because he gives a very, very, very moving, detailed account of what happened. And he's actually says that he's very, you know, lucky to be alive because of what happened that particular day. I do like, he also made the comment about thinking twice about chasing an HP monster, which HP supercells, high precipitation supercells, are very unpredictable. And quite frankly, I don't understand the whole emphasis of trying to get that close in them. And also, be humble, be cautious. No matter how much you think you know about meteorology, about weather, something always happens that leaves us like, whoa, That was unexpected. And that's been that I think really encompasses that particular day with what happened with that tornado. So episode number 61 with Daniel Shaw is at number 9. Any comments or anything like that?
Yeah, I want to hear
The most-
Dina.
Yeah, the thing that I remember most, and I mentioned to him this past spring when we saw him in Murdo, South Dakota, is he said he explained this whole spider thing.
Yes.
That he saw how big it was, and he said everything in Australia wants to eat you.
Oh gosh.
And he
That gave me
explained how
nightmares.
big this spider was, that they hit it with this big, those old fashioned like ropey looking mops,
Oh.
and that it was so big the legs were hanging outside of the mop.
Oh
I swear
God.
to God, I have never forgotten that story.
Dino, you have to remember we're talking about Daniel Shaw, and you have to he multiplies everything times 10, right?
When he said though the legs were
huntsman
outside the
spiders.
mop,
You can't make
terrible.
that up, Greg. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
come on, guys.
You
I was
could
trying
say
to
you caught
forget
a
that.
fish
Now I'm gonna
this
have
big,
nightmares,
but-
Dina.
And we've seen
I-
video.
yeah.
He showed us some video, or someone did. I remember once of a bunch of those scattering. This was down in Australia, in someone's backyard, up their wall, up their
Oh my God.
privacy fence, and they were huge. They were huge.
Not okay.
Yeah, it's freaked me out ever since.
Thanks, Dina. Now I'm gonna have more nightmares tonight.
I know,
That's
I
great.
can't help it.
But his story of El Reno was just so
Yeah.
Gripping.
It's one of those deals where I think even just watching the video, especially for everyone, you just have those moments where everyone's basically speechless, and that is one of those moments.
What
Yeah.
wasn't it a semi truck?
Yes.
A big semi truck,
Semi-truck.
right? That
Yep.
basically
Mhm.
moved and almost went right over him.
Well, it did hit the vehicle, didn't it?
Hit the
It hit-
vehicle,
yeah, it hit
but
the vehicle.
it
No,
was
it hit
moving
the-
right.
It was
Yeah.
basically an
being
episode of the
moved.
movie Twister.
Yeah.
I tell what'll creep you out is if you're watching that and it's like at night and there's like a storm outside and it's like lighting. Oh yeah, that'll freak you out. Don't do that.
Speaking of myths, Jeremy, have you ever heard that one? I think I've heard this maybe in every small town in the Midwest. Our town, the movie Twister was playing at the drive-in while a tornado went through the town that night. I don't know if you've ever heard that one, but
Yeah, I've heard that one. Greg, I don't have enough drink tonight for everything that you're bringing up. I'm gonna need some more.
We all remember the great outbreak of 1996. Yeah.
Yeah. Great episode choice, though. Number 61,
Great.
Daniel Shaw.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So number 8, speaking of storm chasers and well-known storm chasers, at number 8 on the list, whoops, went backwards, sorry, is Jeff Pietrowski.
Wow.
Episode
Okay.
125. So this was recorded, for context, on February 18th of 2021, right at the very tail end of the now infamous Arctic outbreak. And actually, for those who are obviously listening to this can't see this, but on the screen there, I have a little Weather Star 4000 image capture from the morning of Tuesday, February 16th here in Lincoln. It says minus 26 degrees Fahrenheit, not wind chill minus 41. Yay, winter.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty devastating outbreak. Did a lot of showed really a lot of vulnerability to the infrastructure, not only in Texas but a lot of places across the central and southern United States. And just as a kind of like a post event recap, as far as from the Weather Prediction Center, WPC, for those playing the home game. So here's a few things from that event. Dallas, Texas, between February 13th and 19th, had 139 consecutive hours below freezing.
Whoa.
South Central and Southeast Texas, so you're talking Houston, Beaumont, Austin, that type of area, coldest temps experienced since December of 1989. So you're
Yikes.
talking 32 years.
Wow.
Well,
So-
this week actually challenged it down there, didn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it came
Yeah.
close. Yeah,
Good, yeah.
it was pretty much in the similar realm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But for me, remember this, and I can actually let probably Serena and Greg and Phil recall this. Jeff's recap of the December 26, 2015 storm chase in the outer areas of Dallas where an incident took place where quick thinking actually saved his life. Jeff was attacked. He was attacked by an individual on the road
with a knife.
With a knife.
That's
Wow.
right. That's right.
And
I was
the one
watching
question-
it live. I was watching it live.
I was
Crazy.
watching it live too, and I'm thinking, what in the heck is going on? I'm keeping this PG for you, MJ. So, but yeah, what in the heck is going on here? So, my question, and we don't have to answer this, but I'm like, what in the world would happen if I was presented with a similar situation? So, what do you do? So yes, so Jeff, episode 125.
Here's what gets Jeff through something like that, because he's thinking and moving like Flash, like at the speed of light.
Speed of light, yes, absolutely.
So that moment was just probably in slow motion for him, and he was just able to move at his normal speed. And yeah.
So you're seeing the ADD extra D really benefited him in that situation.
It's just a guess. I will tell you guys this. I'm trying to think what made me look at this. It might have been that I saw Jeremy's list, but Jeff, for this episode, he was not our original guest, and I can't remember who it was.
That's right.
But I reached out to Jeff to see if he could fill in because we had a late call off and he was available. So, and it turned out to be a great show.
It was a great show.
Yeah, I do remember that. And I remember being really blown away by just like his versatility. I mean, we all know him, and know the weather side, but him talking about like structural engineering and the pipes breaking and this attack and all that. It's like, this guy's got so much depth to him. It was fascinating. It was one of the early episodes I was a part of the team on. And I'm sorry that I forgot to
put that up there on the screen there. I should have mentioned that. I had the little comment, passion to understand the intricacies of severe weather like no other. I think if you're going to put a tagline on Jeff, I think that's probably about as close as you can get to describing him.
Also, I can see in that picture, it looks like Maz has a goatee. Also, I mean,
Brady, you have good eyes.
You guys see that? That's kind of wild. We might have to bring that back.
I gotta expand my screen.
Yeah.
All right. Next on the list is for number 7. Probably one of the best interviews I've heard during the show, and it's not on the best of list because Phil wasn't on it. I'm going to put that rumor to rest. Episode 39 with John Gordon is at number 7. John had some great stories about his past as a hurricane hunter. You have to hear the stories involving flying through Katrina and all of the information that they were gathering and how many lives that they probably did save with that. But the interesting thing about this, and I want to talk a little bit about, is the conversation later on in the show about the loss of life due to flooding in the United States. Deaths attributed to flooding are basically increasing as deaths in the United States attributed to hurricanes, lightning, and tornadoes has basically been decreasing. So what I did was, since this episode was recorded back on November 2nd of 2017, John mentioned during the show that he felt that this trend would continue, that the flooding deaths would still be an issue. So what I did was I went back through the official stats tabulated by the NWS, and I went back through and see exactly since 2017
prophet or liar
what the fatalities have been since then. So just real quick, I won't drag this on and on here, but 2017 flooding deaths 136. That year, tornado 35, lightning 16, tropical cyclone hurricane 43. 2018 flooding deaths 80, tornado 10, lightning 20, tropical cyclone 7. 2019 92 flooding, tornado 42, lightning 20. You get the idea.
Right.
Wow.
2021 146 deaths flooding. This year alone, so far, 2022, look at the stats. Right now, we have 100 deaths from flooding in 2022. Wow. So, real quick, your thoughts on...
Are you taking into account surge, like flooding and surge?
I believe so. These stats, they didn't break it down by that. They just said attributed to this, that, so flooding. They had some under tropical cyclones. So I'm assuming the tropical cyclone hurricane is probably from surge and everything. I don't quote me on that, but that's what I felt like they did on that.
Well, based on the number of weather fools that we show
Yeah.
That is so
that,
true.
Yeah, no kidding.
that break the rule of turn around, don't drown, Jeremy. It doesn't surprise me at all.
It's like every other week we have someone that's
Yeah.
driving through,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truly.
4 feet of water or something.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to my emergency management days, I felt the biggest thing, and we're talking 2006 to 2009. The most things that we got calls on was due to flooding. Someone trapped in a car somewhere on a flooded street, road, what have you. So again, this is nothing new. This is just an unfortunate trend. And my only thing, and I put that question on there, is how do we get people to care about the flooding problem?
Yeah. Why is it increasing? That's
Right.
really the
Yeah,
heart of it.
exactly.
People just don't take it as seriously.
But
I don't
Like, is it-
think I don't think they do. No. And I, you put on there the passion for the National Weather Service for public safety. We've talked, I mean, I remember him talking about that, and I remember others from NWS talking about just how concerned they are for public safety and how frustrated they are that people don't pay attention to it. That
Am I the only storm chaser, do you think, that turns off the flash flood warning on radar scope?
No, because otherwise it's nonstop.
Right. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like you're inundated with these, warning after warning that are the flash flood. Like, is it maybe that the threshold for that warning is maybe too low? And so there's too much of it out there? I don't know.
Yeah, communication issue maybe. Yeah.
But do we think people care less than they've cared before? Right? Like that's what I'm trying to think about. Like, I don't know if that's like that to me is an answer, but I don't know if that's the answer that would explain why people are dying in greater numbers than they were years ago. I don't know.
So for me, I mean, clearly I'm not an expert. It would take some research, but I think of population density increases in flood-prone areas, and the severity of severe weather events changing, drainage changing. You have people building homes in floodplains now, and that's okay. I mean, there's a bunch that's changed, and so I feel like between the increases of population and all of that's happening, it's got to be multiple reasons why. It doesn't surprise me at all. But I work for a flood insurance company, so I see and hear about this stuff every day.
Yeah. Well, Serena, I think that makes sense, right? Like I'm literally in the middle of where there was 9 feet of water of storm surge from Hurricane Ian. I'm sitting at the point where there was literally 9 feet, and I see people, selling or buying homes left and right. So people are just continuing to move into these areas. So maybe they just don't care. That could be it.
They don't think it's going to happen to them.
Exactly. Yeah. Back to number 10.
Mm-hmm. All right. So at number 6 on this countdown, before I actually unveil who number 6 is, I'm going to read you a quick quote to kind of give you a little bit of context here. So, quote, "One of my long-standing concerns has been that storm chasers may eventually draw too much publicity, and chasing will become another mass cult of just like scuba diving and hang gliding." That was quoted by David Hoadley, Storm Track magazine, in 1977. So number 6 on the countdown is episode 157, Eric Fox. I know immediately, Phil, this is probably one of your favorites. I'm just going on a limb here. So episode 157 with Eric Fox. Chaser safety was basically the most paramount theme of this particular one. I'm just going to say right off the bat here, I love this episode. And the reason why is there are so many different topics that I think that every single storm chaser or up-and-coming storm chaser needs to listen to this particular episode. Trust is extremely, extremely, extremely fragile. And I mentioned this here on this, so I don't mean to read right off the PowerPoint slide, but to gain trust, you must stay humble, be transparent, and know that there are uncertainties. One wrong decision is all it takes. Wrong place, wrong time. My little other thing right there is no matter how much you think, no how much publicity you think you get, the retweets, the comments, whatever, no storm is worth dying for. So with that, Eric Fox, episode 157.
Well, let me just start by saying that all of the shows you've selected so far have really great guests. And Eric is probably one of the best guests that we've had, just in terms of his delivery and the way he expressed his passion for safety. And I was thrilled with that episode, Jeremy. And if I think back on my time, you said, Phil, it was since episode 91. Yeah. I would say Eric's episode was my favorite episode so far.
Yeah, and I'll add too. I think anybody that listens to the show or watches, is familiar that chaser safety has been something that I've been talking about quite a bit, and it's been interesting because my thought is we've got a number of people that are going to be not only in very dangerous situations, but will also be in situations where they can help people and be a cause for good. And you hear a lot media talking, looking at storm chasing as, a little bit like you were mentioning, Jeremy, hang gliding or, parachuting, or people that are just out to kind of get a rush. And certainly there's something to that, but it's frustrating to know that maybe that's how the general public views that population when we can really be a cause for good. And I've also been surprised that a number of storm chasers that early on that I had spoken to were very cautious about dipping their toes in the safety waters and talking about it. And I know it's because if you talk about it and then listen, we all will do crazy, silly, stupid stuff. Like we're doing these on the shows now. If you're listening to our latest episodes, we have chaser safety segments, and Eric Fox was included on those. But it's interesting because I heard one of the things I think he was saying was to not, don't do like where to park. Like if you're chasing storms, where best places to park, best practices. And he was talking about not doing U-turns. And, we just did, Greg was with me it was the Nebraska storm, Jeremy. That day that we met, it was the one storm and everybody was on it. And there was definitely chaser convergence.
That was crazy.
We had to get out of that situation, and the direction we were going was taking us further away. And I made a split-second decision, and from a safety standpoint, it was a stupid decision to do a U-turn, kind of a little bit right in an intersection, but nobody was moving. And so I'm just going to do a U-turn. I did a U-turn. But from a safety standpoint, I should not have done that. And we're all guilty of that. Like no one's perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect, but we still have to talk about chaser safety. We still have to talk about what are things that we can do as chasers to create a positive impact and to be a bigger benefit when we're out in those destructive elements. How can we help people? And Eric was great at doing that. And he's been great with the National Storm Chaser Summit. And has been a great partner in promoting safety.
Yeah. Oh, I agree completely, Phil. And it was actually because of this episode and him talking about search and rescue, which is something I've been a part of the search and rescue community in multiple parts across this country for years. And it really hit a sore spot in my heart. And so I reached out to him. It's one of the reasons why I'll be speaking at the National Storm Chaser Summit, is because I reached out to him. I'm like, this is good stuff. Like, we need to dive into more detail about this because it really is insanely important.
Very much so. And that's why, again, my opinion, because my opinion matters. Probably one of the best episodes that's been put on.
Phil, we listened to this right before we went storm chasing, which was the timing was pretty ridiculous, right? Yeah. Because and really anyone like that was my first time storm chasing. This episode is a great episode to listen to if it's your first time chasing or if it's your 100th time chasing, right? I think it's just the timing was amazing. So check that out when you're about to go chasing, because it's got a bunch of things to keep in mind.
Let me piggyback off that just real briefly there, Brady. After listening to Eric in this episode, in your mind, what was the biggest thing that you took away from that episode?
Ooh, I think just being prepared. That was, I think, the biggest thing. And there was a bunch of things that he gave to be able to be prepared to chase safely. Because I don't think we're not going to be able to stop storm chasing. So really and I know that's pretty generic, right? But just the things that Eric went into in the episode of like things you can do to make sure that you're being safe on the roads, to make sure you're being considerate, and to make sure you're not creating more danger. There's already enough danger with you chasing a possible tornado, right? You don't need to create more. So that was, I think, the biggest thing that I took away, and obviously that's kind of what the episode is about. But just holistically, being able to watch that episode right before you go chasing is huge.
Yeah, we didn't talk about lightning. I remember that, and so Brady wasn't prepared for the lightning we were going to see out there. But
whoa!
And you're talking to a guy who absolutely, if there's one thing I have the biggest passion for storm chasing, is lightning photography. Lightning photography is my mantra. I love it, but I tell you what, you can have every type of warning there is. Severe thunderstorm, tornado. There is no lightning warning. It can hit any point, any time.
Oh my God, you think flood warnings are annoying?
I tell you what, Greg's camera needed like a pivot because he just kept turning it in the wrong direction. I felt so bad.
Shut up, Brady.
I'm sorry, Greg.
Hey, you're talking to probably one of the most leading authorities out there that's missed probably 9 out of 10 shots in terms of lightning. So I feel the pain. It comes with the territory. So, all right. So number 5 here is actually going to be one that, again, I felt was, in terms of the guest, I felt it was probably one of the best speakers that you've had on the show. And it is actually Dr. Gina Esco. I know Phil, he had actually just mentioned that just a little bit ago on one of the previous guests, recorded on May 14th of 2020. She is the program manager at NOAA for Facets. And Facets, because, I'm going to plug education on this show. Facet stands for forecasting a continuum of environmental threats. I'm proud I actually was able to say that after one Thunder Punch. That's pretty good. I like that. But basically, it's a framework. It's trying to basically make warning information a lot more clear for the public. And we're trying to figure out, what's going on here with the publics that we serve, what's working, what doesn't work, and so forth. And the thing is, and this has taken me a lot of years to really grasp, and I don't know about all of you, but any change, it's hard to do. It's hard to grasp. It's hard to take in, and it takes time. So one thing I have down there, and if you do not want to answer this, that's fine. I just have it as an open question. If there's something within the weather enterprise that you could change, what would you change?
Ooh.
Gosh, yeah, that's a loaded question.
I'm sorry, you may have had to have a couple more drinks before you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing. I as people think on that, the funny thing I remember about this episode and Gina was Maz's fascination with her and his Italian background.
That's right.
That's the key takeaway.
That's right. That's like for whatever reason it was a Maz.
Well, Phil, I got a question for you, Phil. So Jeremy selected some interesting guests, but can you tell us how, for example, did you find Gina as a guest? Like you've obviously got a bit of a knack for finding interesting guests, but how do you find them? I get the storm chasers, right? We've had lots of storm chasers on, but when it comes to sort of, I'm going to say, an obscure, maybe niche guest like this, how do you find them?
A lot of them are, Greg, from just social media, being on Twitter, and I'll see someone comment on something, or I'll see a post from somebody and go, "Wow, that's really interesting." That's where a lot of them comes from. Early on in the show, it was just finding someone like a Dina Knightley on Twitter and see that, she's a weather producer with the Weather Channel. That sounds interesting. And then sending, she might have followed us, right? So I could DM her and just say, "Hey, we'd love to have you on as a guest, blah, blah, blah." I honestly, it's just a matter, Greg, of asking the question. And I really have not had any pushback of anybody going, no thanks. I appreciate the ask, but no thanks. Everybody has always been willing to come on. Early on, again, it was finding somebody, and then I would always ask, who do you know? Like a little bit of my previous sales background, right, is getting referrals.
I do remember you asking that.
Like, who do you know? Give me 3 people that you know. And so I would get some names and emails that way, and that would help expand. But then after a while, it just became, I'd see them on Twitter, and I would, I'd DM them. And sometimes they're not following us. And I'm like, you know what? I want to have this person on. And I'll just send them a tweet so everybody sees it, right? Hey, do you want to be on the show? Because I don't care, right? I don't have any pride to hurt when it comes to this.
Awesome.
If you don't want to come on the show, you don't respond like Al Roker. He just doesn't respond, and that's okay.
He doesn't respond to people he works with.
No, I know. I understand that, but it's really been good. This industry is a great industry to be in, and people are good people, and everyone wants to help everybody, and it's fun to be on a podcast. Why not?
Yeah. Also, I'm looking at these pictures because this was right when we were coming out of the lockdown, or we were still in lockdown. Yeah, because this was May 14th of 2020.
Oh yeah, we were still in lockdown.
I noticed your hair's a little longer, Brady.
Oh, I know. What I think MJ's rocking a nice dude.
Yes,
Phil's got a nice dude. Dina looks put together. Dina, you cleaned up nice. I look like a mess.
I still had Fred the turtle behind me.
Yeah,
so he was still here. He was here.
Yeah.
Oh, the year that was 2020.
Oh gosh,
best year ever.
All right, so we're through up to number 4 now. Now we've had, and I'm going to go ahead and say at number 4 is a storm chaser, and I feel that, and this is just my opinion, that there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of negative light in terms of storm chasing and everything. But I felt that this was a very, very heartwarming story. So at number 4 on this, episode 95 with Parker Koppus, this resonated very, very well with me. He has a couple different quotes in there as far as storm chasing saved his life, but the other one saying tornadoes are cool, but the people are the best part. That story really resonated with me, and I won't go into the great details about my background and everything, but for me, it was finding the passion in meteorology and storm chasing that I think really kept me going through a lot of tough times and growing up and everything. So I felt this story really, really resonated with me. So Parker, incredible human being. I've conversed with him a couple times on Twitter. Just a great, awesome story.
Totally agree. It was you used the term heartwarming, and it definitely was for sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
I love that quote. People are the best part, because with all the negativity and horrible nonsense we have in the world, when you see a storm and people coming together after that, it renews your faith in humanity. It really does.
I mean, that's at its core. That's what it's really all about, right? Like, we're all weather geeks, nuts, whatever you want to call us at this point. I mean, it's storms. It's cool. It's cool to see. It's cool to witness, and everything. And it's just again, I just don't get it. Like, for me, I don't have the biggest following or what have you. It doesn't really matter to me. I just enjoy going out and see the storms. I just enjoy getting out there, getting away from life, having my camera, and just capturing those moments that would basically be forever gone had I not been there. So that's really, it's all about for me.
Yeah, Greg, you had asked me how do I find guests, and that was the thing with Parker is, again, on Twitter, on social media, he was brave enough and confident enough to be sharing his story on Twitter. And I thought it was a great story, right? Of someone who, has dealt, like many people, dealt with some mental health challenges, and being, a former serviceman for our country, and some of the stuff that he went through there.
That was the part. That was the part that got me was the when he was talking about that part of his life and how difficult it was for him, and how storm chasing, got him out of that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yep. And today he's a great follow. If you guys Look for Parker on Twitter. He's a great follow. So I'll tell you what, guys, it's been amazing watching all these winter storms and traffic issues across the country recently. And if you have to travel on the road professionally, or if you're just taking a trip, you want to know the best time to leave and when that will be and what to expect along your way. So the Drive Weather app, it illustrates the National Weather Service's forecast, showing basically all the motorists what the weather is going to be along their route at the expected time they're going to be at each point on their road trip. So the key is don't get caught in the snow. Don't end up in traffic due to the rain. 1 out of every 5 vehicle accidents is due to the weather. So visit driveweatherapp.com, or you can download from the Apple App Store or Google Play. The website also has some great demonstrations and some free interstate examples because they map out the interstate daily, and you can kind of see what the weather's like to see what it would look like. Just go to driveweatherapp.com, check it out, download it. You'll love it. Hey, it's going to be time for a break, and we're going to be right back with Jeremy's top 3 and his hilarious top 5 moments. Okay.
Okay, Phil, I think that could have had a clapping sound effect in there. I don't know. Just
we could have cut. We can make yours.
All right.
Yeah. I think we need a drum roll.
I actually had my family use the Drive Weather app because like a big portion of them had to drive to Florida because they're flying Southwest. So, I was like,
Greg, I was waiting for you to come up with a drink. Like I call this the Southwest.
Honestly, I've just had a shitty day today, Phil.
Really?
So I every winter I take a group of photographers down south somewhere. We've done Costa Rica, Panama, we've done Mexico, Cuba, all sorts of places. And this year we were going to Cabo, and that was supposed to be January 19th. And our tour company, the charter company, the airline just announced all flights canceled. They just stopped operating.
Oh, geez. Oh.
Good Lord.
Even in January?
Sorry.
Yep. So, yeah.
I remember you talking about going on that trip.
Yeah,
too.
so it just got canceled like 2 hours ago. So I was like, shit.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
So I would have come up with a better drink. If you know.
Greg's like, this is the forget everything.
It's a painkiller.
But if you want to know, it's rum and Coke and lime.
So. Oh, that's great.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's what we'll do. We'll come back. Jeremy covers the top 3. And then when you get into the top 5 moments, how do you want to do? Do you want to basically discuss what it is or set it up and then I'll play it?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. We'll do that. And then do top 5 moments, and then we're kind of done. We don't have any big clothes or anything like that, really. I have a clothes, but it's not big. I'm wearing clothes.
That's good. Thank you.
I'll say that.
I just want to tell Angela how much I love her T-shirt.
That's right.
That is like the best T-shirt.
It is.
Hey, so here's the. It's going to be too long of a story. I'm not going to get into it with that shirt. So that's our first gift shirt to our Patreon 5 and above members that we give merch to. That's kind of the first gift they get, is that it's the logo, but it's expanded into a supercell. And and we lost the person that did that for us for a while. So
That's
I
right.
went and ordered prints that we could print on shirts, and it didn't come out right. And so then I tried to go to a different company, and they said the lettering's too small for it to kind of work. And I don't know. I'm struggling getting that for our new
those shirts
folks,
could be
but
worth something.
They might
Yeah.
be.
Might be retro.
Yeah.
I want to know who did the cool tornado thing for us that looked like a candy cane.
That was awesome.
You know who did that? It's called AI.
Really?
called
So you
AI.
just typed in candy cane tornado and that's
No,
what
I
it spit
typed
out?
in like Christmas tornado or something, and that was one of the images that it came up with. I'm like,
Really?
sweet, that's
I
pretty
loved
cool.
it.
Yeah,
I remember showing everybody, like, look how cool that is.
yeah.
That was
It's
excellent.
AI art from Dolly 2 or whatever. I don't know
Okay.
what it is, but
Awesome.
AI art. You just type crap in, and
We don't need humans anymore.
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
but
say.
I'm not an
wait,
artist.
You're not going to need. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing weather.
Give it 10
graphics
years, that'll
anymore.
be every broadcast
Oh no,
meteorologist
cat!
using
Get rid of the
AI.
cat, Angela.
We're gonna need a lot more of this
Oh,
painkiller.
kitty!
No,
Hi, kitty.
Ooh, kitty and a dog.
Oh, dog. There we go. I'll take the dog. All right, so
All
we'll
right.
keep going. Let's keep moving here. Jeremy, I'll introduce you back in. We're coming back in 3, 2. Hey, welcome back to this bonus edition of the Stormfront Freaks podcast. So we got Jeremy Bauer here. He's covering his top 10 best episodes of Stormfront Freaks Raw, our raw video recordings of our show. And we've gone through 4 through 10, and so I can't wait, Jeremy, for the top 3. Let's get
Top
into 'em.
3, let's get them.
Yeah, let's
All
see
right.
it.
Top 3. We're into the good stuff. So at number 3 will be no surprise to anyone. James Spann,
Oh,
episode
yeah.
57.
Oh yes.
When does this man sleep?
He doesn't.
Doesn't.
He does it. Incredible individual. I probably could not come up with enough adjectives to describe James and everything that he's meant to probably all of us within the Weather Enterprise. This particular episode basically walks through a life in the day of James Spann. What does he do? All the social media that he has to keep up with. We also get into a little bit about the current state in the future of broadcast meteorology, what the profession is going to look like in 10 years and 20 years, and also his overall desire of trying to come up with a unified message across the Weather Enterprise. Because essentially, as we found out, inconsistent messaging is going to lead to inaction. So basically trying to figure out a way to make sure that we're coming out with a unified message. There was a little bit of a quote in here. I'm not sure if I got it exactly right, but it really, really hit home. And that is everyone is under enormous pressure right now. The NWS meteorologists, the people involved behind the scenes, the broadcast meteorologists. So I really, really admire the honesty and the transparency from everyone on this particular episode. So as you recall, episode 57 with James Spann, talk to me a little bit about the current and future state of meteorology.
I loved him though, because I remember him always saying, like, if he wanted to talk to real people, he'd go to the dollar store. You remember that, you guys? He would
I
go
remember.
to the dollar
Yep.
store
Yep.
and he'd ask people, and that's where you get, like, that's where you really learn about people.
So he's been on at least twice, maybe 3 times, but this might have been one of the earlier episodes. This was not the episode after he came out with his like autobiography book, because I brought up, we titled that, and he actually mentioned this in one of the following
Yes.
Weather Brains, but that he was on the show to talk about it, and one of the chapters was during his college years, and he went down to spring break, and one of his roommates got like super drunk and wasted and apparently defecated all over their hotel room, or
Oh my
missed
God.
the toilet or something, and then tried to cover it up with Brute cologne.
Poop
Or
and
something.
brute.
And so we titled the episode "Poop and Brute." Yeah, as MJ just said, "Poop and Brute."
Brute.
And
Oh my
he got a
That was
kick
by
out of that.
far- Yeah.
This one was Code Red Day.
Code Red
Oh.
Day. Okay.
God.
The thing I've always loved about Span is if you watch his when he's actually on air during an outbreak of some kind, he talks not like I think he talks not as a meteorologist. Like he doesn't talk over top of people's knowledge or their heads. He breaks it down in terms and uses language that everybody can understand. And I think it's maybe it's not unique, but it's certainly effective for sure.
I don't know of anyone that is more plain spoken than James
Right,
Spann.
right.
Yeah.
No, right, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and he
Nobody
does.
wants
You
you
know,
talking over their head.
yeah, he does mansplaining, right? That's what that's
Yeah.
called.
Manscaping.
Not manscaping, right?
Inside
No,
joke.
that's
two
different,
words.
Dina.
Inside
Those
joke.
two
That was a
words
different
mixed
one.
up. But
Yeah.
no, you know, he does so many of the talks at schools, elementary schools and stuff like that every day, that he's driven like every part of Alabama. He's driven. And so what's great is when he does his during severe weather, and he's up there for hours on end, he can say, hey, this storm is right across from the Waffle House next to the, First Bank here. He knows all of those locations from some of the smallest. I mean, he's talking about barbecue joints that, are some back road as well. It's coming up by, Tim's Barbecue, and he knows that stuff. And that's, again, great way to communicate is that's what people know. They know that stuff, and they can relate to that, which he does a great job with. And again, he's, Jeremy said, when does that guy sleep? All the stuff he does for the schools and all the, it comes on our podcast and does stuff for other people. And he just, he does it out of the goodness of his heart. And he's willing to promote, weather and communication and safety and all that. And he's a great guy.
Yeah, and he believes in it, I think, more than anybody else too, because don't forget when his own neighborhood and his own home were impacted by a tornado.
I remember that, Serena.
I remember that too. Yeah.
Yeah. He keeps going. I think he took a pause to call his wife and make sure everything was okay, but he's still back at it because he just believes so strongly in this public service. I mean, he's one in a million.
He's passionate about it.
And the thing is about that is when you go back and you rewatch it, he didn't miss a beat. He made the call, check on his wife, and then came right back on the air. He did not miss a beat.
Yep.
Yeah. Great moment in broadcast meteorology right there.
Yeah.
All right. To the top two.
Ooh.
At number 2 is one that I think everyone will agree with. Episode 148 with Ginger Z.
Oh, yeah. Ginger.
Yep. This was really kind of centered around, at that point, she had just released one of her books, A Little Closer to Home, How I Found the Calm After the Storm. This was definitely the most open and honest discussion that you've ever had on this show. And be quite honest, I'm just going to let you all talk about this episode because you were there, you took it in. But to me, this is, like I said, one of the most important episodes that you've done up to this point.
Yeah, my comment on this, and certainly very similar to Parker, Ginger was very, open and honest in social media and in her job about some of her challenges with mental health. And I think all of us either have challenges ourselves with mental health or certainly know of someone close to us that has challenges with mental health. And I just love the fact that people are talking about it and that it's becoming obviously a medical challenge, right? And not just a stigma. And, that it's finally starting to get that. And it's people like Ginger bringing it to the forefront. And the fact that she was open about talking about that before she was ever on our show and she wrote a book about it, I knew, hey, let's talk about this. Let's bring it up and let's dive deep. And sometimes you have to be, you don't know when you have guests that you're not familiar with on the podcast. You don't know what questions you can ask. But again, sometimes you ask the question and you let them take it from there. And Ginger was very open.
I really loved her. I learn a lot from other women in this industry, and it can be really any industry, but to know sometimes you see people like that and you think it's perfect and everything's great. And, sometimes your own struggles in the workplace, you think maybe it's just me or maybe nobody else has these problems. And then you finally start reaching out and you find out, how people handle things. That's what I kind of like. I want to know how people handle things. I like, how did she handle it? How did she keep going? I just really respected her after that.
Me too. Okay. All right. Insert drum roll if you want.
Number one.
Now, I don't know why I have moments of brilliance driving in the car, either on the way to work or away. But I kept thinking, I don't want to just go, here's number one, yada, yada, yada. It's just like, there's got to be a little bit of suspense here. So I came up with a little intro here. Amazingly, like I said, on the way to work this morning, success. It does not come easy if it comes at all. This individual personifies everything a meteorologist can and should be: the patience, the persistence, and the perseverance to get to where they're at right now. At number 1, it's actually 2 episodes. Same person, Janice Dean is number 1.
Janice.
Yes.
I
So
love her.
specifically episodes 54 and 84. Again, I'll let you talk through this. Again, the open and honesty that she has about her journey, all the experiences that she's had to go through to get to the point that she's at, but how she states that she's grateful for those experiences because they got her to where she's at. Basically having to go through the bad to get to the good. And look, we all go through struggles through life. We're not perfect. But as she said, the journey has a purpose, and those moments happen because they lead you to something better or something more special down the road. So with that, Janice Dean at number 1.
Phil, did we have her on a third time too?
Yeah, we've had her on at least 3.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's been 4, but I know at least 3 times.
Yep.
She was our first 3-timer.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I gotta say, her book, and I'm not BSing, was one of the best books. I literally read it in like 48 hours. Sometimes you read a book and you gotta like force yourself to finish reading it. But hers grabbed me. Like some of the things that had happened to her, even in her personal life, blew my mind. And just like Ginger, I like to know how other people handle these problems. And how, and what they did, X, Y, and Z, how did it turn out? She said many times that she uses humor in uncomfortable situations, but I like that she is so honest. And just, who was the guy? Do you guys remember who it was who had the gun on him all the time?
Yeah, not
gun
Howard
off.
Stern. Who was the other?
Don Imus.
Don Imus.
That's it.
Yeah,
That
Don
blew my
Imus.
mind too.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff. Yeah.
No, she is very Jeremy. I see Janice very similar to James Dean and Serena. You talked about it as far as James was public servant and Janice. I get that same feeling from her ever since we had her on the first time. Is she is just so honest and upfront and easy to talk to. Doesn't, and the fun part too about a lot of these guests that we have on the show is looking for the best ones in my eyes are a lot of times the ones that don't take themselves too seriously, because we don't take ourselves too seriously on the show, and that's the fun in it. And so it's great to have guests that they just can be honest and they can be themselves, and she's been great at that, and it just reminds me we need to have her back on. She's got to be our fourth timer.
So I think that's what's great about this podcast, though, because even if we have our own professional lives where we have to be politically correct and we have to be this and we have to be nice, we can get on here and just have a good time and find, like, that's why I loved our Chase Week. We could have our passion and weather, have fun with it. We could be ourselves. We don't have to worry about, upsetting anybody. It's just fun. This is just getting together and having some fun.
We could talk about strapping on probes. Like
I know.
we did last episode, strapping them on.
I can tell Greg that every cloud looks like a dick, and he doesn't get upset about it, Which if I did that at work,
you're my kind of people. You're my kind of people.
If I did that at work, everybody would have me in HR.
Yes.
And I feel like Janice, she is not afraid to be who she is and not afraid to voice her opinion. That's rare these days. Genuine is becoming a rarity, which is kind of crazy. But you're
right.
It was really cool. It was just a breath of fresh air when she was on both times. And, just the fact that she is so honest and upfront, Phil, like you were saying about struggles with everything, right? And just being real, right? With so many people. I mean, just go on TikTok, right? It's a complete cesspool of people being fake.
Yes,
and it's cool. It's cool to see. So we definitely need to have her back on.
All right, good stuff, Jeremy. Good stuff. All right, let's. This is the other part I'm looking forward to now. Is your top 5 moments. Let's hit these because these will be good.
All right. So we'll go through these. So at number 5, episode 130, Phil introduces the freaks to the game film titles.
Film titles. Yeah, so good old lightning round. This is a lightning round game. We'll catch some of this right now. TV show and your podcast really has nothing to do with weather. But we're going to call this one film titles, ? So film titles, ? You guys remember this? So here's what it is. I'm going to go through a list of some film titles. And the three of you have to decide if this is an actual title of a film or if it's the title of something else. Like, it's really not a film title. That's the game. Now, there is a little twist to this, no pun intended, that these film titles, they don't necessarily have to be Oscar films, right? They don't have to be what are the film festivals like?
God, I was wearing those horrible glasses.
There we go. Yeah, they don't. They probably weren't at those. So I'm going to go through these. You guys just have to say, yeah, it's a real film title or it's not. Does that make sense?
Got it.
All right, so here we go. So the first one we're going to cover is the title is Everyone I Did Last Summer. Everyone I Did Last Summer.
Not a film title.
What is the rating going up to?
Yeah,
it's a film. It's either a film title or it's not. So what do you guys think?
I'm gonna say film title.
I'm gonna say yes.
I thought I heard Ricky say no, but
so.
You guys, you have to have a collective response.
All right, who's gonna... those two say no, so we'll go with no, not a film title.
No. And that would be correct. It is not a film title. It was a book. Wow. It was a book. Everyone I Did Last Summer. All right, the next one.
Really?
The Bone Ranger. The Bone Ranger.
Oh my God! What movies are you watching, Phil?
That's gotta be a film.
That's not a watch
around for Phil's work. It is.
All right, so what do you think? Film title or not?
We're going with film title.
Film title. All right, it is a film title. That is good. All right. The next one, Goodwill Humping. Goodwill Humping.
Oh.
Gotta be. Yeah.
Same
we'll
film.
Film title.
All right. So Jeremy, you were talking about brief moments of clarity and genius. Sometimes I think of these lightning rounds while I'm traveling to or from work. That's where I think of these. But as we queue up some of these other moments, a lot of times it also has to do with the people that I know are going to be on the show and how much I could push that boundary. And knowing Greg and these guys, I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to be able to push the boundary with this lightning round a little bit.
Phil, there's a real fine line between genius and crazy, and I think you thread that line right down the...
I actually thought, Phil, that you were going to say sometimes you have your great ideas while you're driving, and sometimes they happen on the toilet, and this was one of the ones that happened on the toilet.
Oh, that was great.
Number 4.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Episode 90. Phil can't read Japanese. Maz can. More work for MJ.
Oh no.
It's a little too bad Maz wasn't here, but yeah, to set this up, we were doing Weather Fools.
Oh,
and Maz made a Mazism. And it was so bad, and I tried to not think of it, and I couldn't help myself. Japan. I believe this is Japan. Yep, Tokyo.
What does that translate to, Phil? Quick.
Where's my translate button?
Run for cover.
You don't know?
It's not there. But here we go.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
That's so offside.
Marking that one out.
Right.
Marking that one down.
Please do that.
And once Maz gets giggling, I can't
laughing
stop
is funnier
giggling.
than anything.
Yeah. And Brady has
I don't
no
understand
clue.
what happened.
Brady has no clue what's going on.
Brady didn't know.
Okay.
Alrighty. I'm sorry.
Cover.
This
I could
show
just
would
squeak
not
out,
be
"You're the worst."
same without the Mazisms.
Type what happened in
Everybody's
the
just
private
lost
chat.
their
I don't
mind.
know.
Oh,
All right,
man.
here we go.
That was
And so anyway, so we finally collect it, and it's funny because Maz muted himself, but he was still, even once I started and I just wasn't looking at him, he was still just giggling, and he couldn't stop giggling. It was good.
Number 3.
That's great.
Episode 116. Brady does a Frankenstein impression during Phil's opening. Hilarity ensues.
This is good. Yeah, this is good.
Oh, number 117 on October 29th. We're going to be offering a number of special membership options for our listeners, including, yeah, listen to this, a live stream of Stormfront Freaks Raw. And if you guys don't know what that is, that's
It's like Frankenstein.
I was like, ooh.
This is gonna get done so much faster.
I like how Phil just disappeared.
Hey, this is all about the content, Phil.
Joe and Kelly. We're going to get to you guys here soon. No, sorry about
No
that.
rush,
only
no
our-
rush.
This is just our first minute.
Oh.
Just to
All
let
right,
you
take
know.
2. I'll try and tone it down a little bit this time, all right?
We got
I
Saturday
think that's
Night
the reddest
Live
I've ever
talk
seen Phil.
Frankenstein and Tarzan.
fire.
I can't even imagine what Jacob's writing about this right now.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Oh, that is funny.
Such
I
good
didn't remember
stuff.
what I was thinking. Like I just kind of I didn't even like realize, like I don't even think I meant to say it out loud. I was just like, whoa, like in my brain, and it just somehow
There you
came
go.
up.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Lord.
Number 2, episode 65. In an attempt to convert the world to veganism and to turn Maz's face 8 shades of red, Phil introduces the freaks to the game burger position.
Yeah, so this was Rick
Oh,
Reichmuth,
gosh.
who we've had on a couple times. And again, Rick was someone who I had talked to before we had him on, and I just kind of knew he was just one of those guys that we could push the boundaries a little bit. And so, yeah, our lightning round was called Burger Position. And I'd give him the name. It was a name, and I told him it was either a position in the Kama Sutra or it was actually the name of a famous burger in one of the 50 states. So I'll share.
Oh my god.
Number 5
Oh my
special.
God.
It's a burger. It's definitely a burger.
Yeah, I'm gonna say burger.
That is a burger.
Yeah.
That's Keller's Drive-In in Dallas, Texas. Magic Mountain.
Please let it be a burger.
I'm gonna say position.
Wow.
Man, I am getting these all right.
No, it's scary.
Wait. Are you married?
All right, we got a couple more. We'll do a couple more.
My eyes are watering.
Here we go.
Must be the onions. Do not start that.
Oh my.
Do not start that.
All right, MJ.
God.
All right. The glowing triangle.
Oh my god.
The glowing triangle. Is that a burger or position?
It's a position.
Oh, man, you're right. All right, this is the last one 'cause I can't take it anymore. Last one. The meat stick. The meat stick. Is that a burger or a position?
It's a position. I mean, it's a burger. It's a burger.
It's a burger.
It's a burger.
That is correct.
There you go.
He ran the
Did you get
table.
them all right?
He ran the table.
I can't remember if he got them
I
all
think he got
right.
most of them
He
right.
did really
yeah.
good, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did really well.
really well. All right. The number 1 moment, I don't think to anyone's surprise.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Episode 33. No bones about it.
No.
Kim has issues with screen sharing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a listener of the show, you know one of our previous co-hosts, Kim Cunningham. She always, whatever it was, just always struggled sharing her screen when we would do Weather Fools or other
Every time.
segments. She just always had trouble with it. And this particular episode, she got in, but she, for whatever reason, she couldn't get out. Was the problem.
Athletes know there.
Okay. So that was buzzbernard.com.
Wow, where are you now, Kim? My goodness.
Google. Wait, there it is.
It's like, holy cow. Okay. Well, he's gone. No, I'm not falling into this.
Where'd she Guys, can you hear me?
You look a little thin.
What are you thinking? What are you I can't figure this out. Wait. There we go. Okay, is it gone?
Yes, it's gone.
Oh, God, that's
Oh,
That's good.
Can you guys hear me?
Mass, you look a little thin.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was a good Mazism right there. You look a little thin.
Oh my God, that's funny, Jeremy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my top episodes and top moments. Thank you for listening. This is Jeremy out, and hey, you survived a night with me. So, hey, there's to you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
That was great stuff, Jeremy. Yes, well,
Awesome.
Well done. Thank you. So here's the case now. You got to tell our listeners where they can find you on social media.
Do they really want to find me?
They will now. They will now.
Do
Yes,
now.
they will.
So it's pretty simple across the board. JRB Storm. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at JRB Storm. Instagram, JRB Storm. The Facebook page, JRB Storm Photography. And remember, if you see something out there, a photo, and it doesn't say JRB Storm Photography on it, that means someone else probably took it.
That's good. That's good. So I'll tell you what, and if you haven't seen our newly designed website by Greg, be sure to visit stormfrontfreaks.com, and you can access our previous library of shows. You can access merchandise, our Patreon membership link, our weather film drinking games, which we didn't talk about any of those tonight. Actually, because they're not raw. We couldn't do those on YouTube. That's why. Licensing reasons, we couldn't do that on YouTube. So, again, just go to stormfrontfreaks.com and you can find those. Our next episode, so we're going to be back recording a traditional episode to start out our new year on January 5th with tropical storm expert and first-time guest, Philip Klotzbach is going to be with us. So that'll be a great show to start off the new year. Patreon members, you can join our raw video recording live, and the edited audio podcast is going to be available to everyone else that weekend. So for Jeremy and Brady's here, and MJ and Serena and Dina and Greg and Angela, I'm calling it a Happy New Year, everybody. So thanks. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New
Cheers.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Jeremy.
New Year.
Good stuff. Well, Jeremy, that was awesome.
That was fun.
Thanks for that.
Yeah,
that was
thank you.
good.
How long did that
amazing.
take you?
It really was.
Jeremy, how long did that take you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun to do. It was fun to do. Glad to do it. It's and I sincerely mean this. You guys do amazing work. I mean, this has been a very, very fun podcast to be a part of. So not to put any trouble or pressure on you there, Phil, but if you want to have me back for an actual episode later on down the line, if you guys want to hear me flap my gums some more, by all means.
That sounds good. Sounds good. No, that was great. You how many days do you think it took you to go through everything?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say probably roughly 70, 80 days, somewhere.
What?
Wow.
Well, I mean, I wanted to
mean,
make sure. I wanted to
He's
make
got
sure
a
that I
life and a
did
real,
it. Well, yeah, I wanted to make sure that I did it justice. You know, I wanted to make sure that I was hitting all the highlights, the key points, everything. Because you know it's difficult when you do a retrospective. You don't want to just read verbatim what was said. It's just like, okay, what's a talking point? What works? What doesn't? How does it fit? What can I research and all that kind of good stuff. I'm not a perfectionist. It's just like I want to make sure it's a good product. That's just the way I am.
Hey, that picture behind you, is that obviously one of yours? What storm was that? When was that taken?
So that was July 7th of 2014. That was
a July storm
out near Lexington, Nebraska. And that was a pretty fun little storm right there.
Yeah, it looks great.
It was, we call that atmospheric magic. That is, because we have to give, you know, it's an artist thing. You have to give titles to certain things. And amazingly enough, that was just taken with a small point and shoot camera, the Sony RX100 Mark III. And, you know, the saying goes, the best camera you have is sometimes just the one that's on you. And that's how that came about. And that photo is probably one of our, probably our most famous that's out there. It's been used on displays and like various like art displays and everything across the country. Some people actually think it's actually a painting. A lot of times it's like, no,
it kind of does look like a painting behind you.
It does. Yeah, it does a little.
I will have to say I have to give incredible credit to my wife, Chantel. She is the one that taught me everything about composition. So as far as like the science and everything, as far as the photography goes, that's one thing, but the actual art behind it, composition, rule of thirds, all that stuff, like Greg, you know what I'm talking about there.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So that's again, it's a 1-2 combo. You know, I'm more into the sciencey and spending the money too much at times on the photography gear, and she's really helped me out with the promotion and the actual art and everything.
Cool.
Angela, what'd you think of the